Okay, here we have another problem, and we're going to try our little shortcut version on this one also. So I think that that will save us some writing and some steps. But before we do that, we need to see what our common denominator would be. We must have that common denominator in order to add these fractions. And it's going to be too hard to see what the common denominator is unless we factor everything completely. So this will factor into x times x. And then, let's see, the factors of 9 that will give us a 6 would be minus 3y and minus 3y. Now over here, let's factor this one also. So when we factor it, we'll have x times x, and minus 3 that will give us a minus 2 in the middle would probably be minus 3y plus y. Alright, now let's look for our common denominator. So our common denominator here, I'm going to write this all together. We have to take what they have in common. Well, they both have an x minus 3 in common. X minus 3y, I should say. And then we have to take everything else that we've not accounted for. So we have another x minus 3y here. And then we also have an x plus y over here. Alright, so now let's look at our first fraction. What would we have to multiply by so that we would have the common denominator? In this case, it would be x plus y. So we have to do the exact same thing to the top, which means now we'll have x plus y times x plus y. Now for our second fraction, we have to decide what do we have to multiply by to turn that into the common denominator. We would have to multiply by another x minus 3y, which means we're going to do the exact same thing to the top. So on the top now we'll have plus x plus 2y times x minus 3y. Alright, now that we have this, let's start simplifying as much as we can. In order to do that, we're going to have to multiply everything out. So when we distribute here, we're going to have x squared plus xy, and then we're going to distribute our y. So that will be plus xy plus y squared. And now we're going to distribute here also. So we're distributing our x, we'll get plus x squared minus 3xy. And then distributing out our 2y, we'll have plus 2xy and then minus 6y squared, all over that common denominator. So I'm going to write the common denominator here. A lot of writing with these problems. Now let's see what we can clean up. So here we have an x squared and an x squared, which would make 2x squareds. And for our xy's, we have 1 plus 1 would be 2, minus 3 would be minus 1, plus 2 would be a plus xy. And then for y squareds, we have a plus 1 minus 6, which would be a minus 5 y squareds, all over our common denominator again. Oops, there we go. Now our final step is always to see if we can factor, to see if anything will cancel on top and bottom. So whenever we try to factor that numerator, 2x squared can only break down into 2x times x, and 5y, our only choices are 1 times 5, so it'd have to be 1y and 5y. But when we check that, we would have 10y and 1y, which is not going to give us a 1 in the middle. So maybe we have these incorrect in here. What if I switch them around? What if I have 5y and 1y? Now we have 2xy and 5xy, which are still not going to come together to give us a plain positive xy in the center. This numerator will not factor any. So actually we're done at this point. Nothing will factor further and nothing will cancel.